Imagine you're driving home. You've got $10,000 in cash in a bag on the passenger seat, money you just pulled out of the bank for a car purchase. You get pulled over for a broken taillight. The officer walks up, sees the bag, and asks what's in it, and you tell him. And right there on the side of the road, without arresting you, without charging you with any crime, he takes it. You're free to go, but your money is gone. And here's the part that should make your blood run cold. What just happened to you was completely legal. No, this isn't a scene from a dystopian movie. This happens to thousands of Americans every single year. And there's a federal law that makes it possible. It's called civil asset forfeiture. And I guarantee you didn't learn about this in school. Quick note before we dive in, nothing in this video is legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, and this channel is for educational purposes only. If you're dealing with a specific legal situation, please talk to a licensed attorney in your state. Okay, let's get into it. Civil asset forfeiture is a legal process that allows law enforcement, local police, state police, federal agents to seize property they believe is connected to a crime. Not property that has been proven to be connected to a crime, property they believe might be. Here's the critical thing that separates this from criminal forfeiture. The legal case is filed against the property itself, not against you. The case is literally titled something like United States versus $10,000 in U.S. currency. You, the human being, are not even the defendant. That distinction sounds technical, but it has enormous consequences because you don't have a constitutional right to an attorney in a civil case, only in criminal cases. So if the government takes your car, your cash, or even your house and you want it back, you have to hire a lawyer yourself, out of pocket, to fight the government. And here's where it gets worse. In many cases, the legal fees to fight the forfeiture cost more than the seized property is worth. So even innocent people, and we'll get into that, often just give up and let the government keep what they took. Between 2000 and 2019, federal agencies alone seized more than $36 billion in assets through civil forfeiture. That's billion with a B. State agencies collect billions more on top of that. And in most states, the seizing agency gets to keep a percentage of what they take. Let that sink in. The agencies doing the seizing have a direct financial incentive to seize more. Critics, including federal judges, have called this a perverse incentive. Some have called it policing for profit. And let me tell you about the story of Ed Wah. He was a Burmese refugee living in Texas who managed a Christian rock band that toured the country raising money for orphanages and schools in Burma and Thailand. And in 2016, Ed Wah was driving through Muskogee County, Oklahoma after a concert tour. He had $53,000 in cash. Money donated at concerts by American churchgoers for overseas charities. He was pulled over for a broken taillight. The deputy found the cash. Despite Ed Wah having documentation showing the money was for charity, and despite no drugs or contraband being found, the deputy seized all $53,000. No arrest, no charges. The money was gone. Ed Wah eventually got his money back, but only because he connected with the Institute for Justice, a nonprofit legal organization that took his case for free. Most people don't have that. Most people never see their property again. This isn't a one-off. Philadelphia used forfeiture to seize over 1,000 homes and 3,000 vehicles in a single decade. People lost their houses because a family member, sometimes a visitor, not even a resident, was caught with drugs on the property. So what's the legal foundation for all of this? See, forfeiture laws have actually dated back to the 1700s. They were originally used to seize ships smuggling goods. But the modern era of civil asset forfeiture really exploded in 1984. The Comprehensive Crime Control Act of 1984, passed during the War on Drugs, dramatically expanded the federal government's forfeiture powers and critically allowed law enforcement agencies to keep the proceeds. Because before that, seized assets went to the General Treasury, and after 1984, agencies kept them. There was reform in 2000, the Civil Asset Forfeiture Reform Act, which shifted the burden of proof slightly towards the government. Before that, you had to prove you're innocent to get your property back. After the reform, the government has to prove by preponderance of the evidence. That means more likely than not that the property is connected to crime. But here's the problem. Even under that standard, the bar is still very low. And more importantly, many states operate under their own forfeiture laws that are even weaker than the federal standard. In some states, law enforcement only needs probable cause, the same standard to make an arrest, to permanently keep your property. A few states, however, have passed strong reforms. New Mexico abolished civil asset forfeiture entirely in 2015. They now require a criminal conviction before property can be permanently forfeited. But at the federal level and in most states, the old system is still in place. So what are your rights if this happens to you? First, you do not have to consent to a search. Politely but clearly say, I do not consent to a search. The officer searches anyway. That doesn't stop the search, but it preserves your legal rights for any challenges later. Second, if property is seized, ask for a receipt in the name of the seizing officer. You are entitled to documentation. This receipt is a starting point for any legal challenge. Third, you typically have a limited window, often 30 to 45 days depending on the state, to file a claim challenging the forfeiture. Miss that deadline and your right to contest is gone forever. Act immediately. Fourth, Contact organizations that provide free legal help specifically for forfeiture cases. The Institute for Justice handles these cases nationally and has won back millions in wrong seized assets. The ACLU also takes forfeiture cases. You are not alone. And fifth, and this is really important, there is a provision in federal law called reputable sharing that allows local police to work with federal agencies and bypass stricter state laws. So even if your state has good protections, if a federal agency is involved, federal rules apply. Know the difference. Civil asset forfeiture is one of those issues that almost everyone, left, right, libertarian, agrees needs serious reform once they actually learn how it works. It has bipartisan critics in Congress, it's been called unconstitutional by sitting federal judges, and yet the system continues, largely because most people don't know it exists. That's why this channel exists, because the most powerful thing you can have in a system like this is information. If you know your rights, you are harder to take advantage of. And if enough people know, maybe the law actually changes. If this video opened your eyes, do one thing. Share it with one person, not for the channel, for them. They deserve to know this too. Subscribe if you want to keep learning about laws that nobody talks about. New videos drop every week, and drop a comment below. Do you know about your civil asset forfeiture before today? I read every single one.